Welcome to Desh Bangla Live with Tania, Amir. It's my honor and pleasure to have us in studio today from Kolkata, Mr. Shubir Bhomik, who is a former BBC and Reuters correspondent. His ancestry actually lie in Bangladesh. His father is from Kumilla, mother from Borisar. He was a fellow at the Queen Elizabeth House, Oxford University, a senior fellow at East-West Center, Washington, and a Eurasian fellow at Frankfurt University. He's in fact authored 5 books, 3 on Northeast and 1 in particular on Bangladesh, and the last one is on minorities, media and migration. He is an avid writer, columnist. He appears in various talk shows around the world and lectures at various universities and think tanks. Today, Shubir Bhomik is joining us from Kolkata. Welcome, Shubirji. Welcome to my show. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Indeed, a pleasure to connect to you again.
You've covered Bangladesh more than 30 years. You have extensive knowledge. What's your take on the current scenario in Bangladesh?
To say the least, Bangladesh, the situation has never been as bad as it is now, and it's degenerating by the day. What is very important to note is that there is an absolute lack of governance of any kind. Mobocracy has taken over. Democracy is a very far cry. Mobocracy has taken over. Anybody can be mobbed. Anybody can be dishonored. Anybody can be put in jail at any point of time. And since you will know this better than I do, as a lawyer, Bangladesh is in the grip of some kind of a judicial terrorism, should I use that term. May not make you terribly happy, but that's exactly what is happening there. False cases are filed by dozens, by hundreds actually, and people are jailed. Bangladesh now resembles a huge jail. I have had the benefit of learning of the experience that people have been suffering. Some of my friends, younger sisters who were there in the jail, have horrible experiences to narrate. And if you criticize, I bet, if you sound critical, and then you land in Bangladesh, you may be put in jail, and all kinds of false cases. A former minister has been accused of murdering somebody, with what? Unbelievable. With the mast that holds the flag in front of an official car. So not a pistol, not a gun, not a sword, but something like that. And this lady, I know for a fact, can't even kill a fly. Should call her maid servant to kill the fly. She has been accused of riding a scooter, which she can't ride in any case. She can't ride. And going and killing somebody with that masthead. I don't know whether you can actually kill. Is it sharp enough? I've never tried. But these are preposterous allegations, and people are jailed. And a hell of a lot of people have fled the country. Now, this is something extremely unacceptable and surprising for India, because we have change of guard in India. I mean, some parties come and go. The BJP is in power now. The Congress lost power in 2013. But show me one senior congressman who had to run away from India. They're all here. They're critical of the government, and, they are not in jail. So Mr. Yunus, with his very placid image, which appeals to the West, Nobel laureate, nice English-talking, sweet-talking man, but he has turned Bangladesh into a living hell. And the reason is, and it's very bad for women, it's very bad for minorities. Women, some wives of ruling Awami League leaders, I am told, have been raped when their husbands were not found. And those rape scenes have been, captured on video. And then those women have been blackmailed into submission saying that if you complain to police about what we did, we'll release this on social media. I mean, all kinds of things which I just can't imagine. I've known Bangladesh for such a long time. My roots are there. And I used to be very, very proud of the fact that I'm a Bengali, and not just a Bengali, but an East Bengali, right? I'm not a Calcutta Babu, having lived in Calcutta for nearly 30 years. But now, sometimes I feel very upset when people point out that this is exactly what is happening. How can you Bengalis do something like this? Because Bengalis in the rest of the subcontinent, the image of a Bengali is a literate person. Very senior Indian leaders tell me, Bengali log likha pada hota hai. They're all literate persons, they're highly educated. How can these things happen in a country which is largely Bengali? I said, this country is a Bengali country, but there is an effort to turn this country into a Bengali Pakistan, as it were. And that's where the danger is. Bangladesh will not remain Bangladesh if everything goes the way it is at the moment. It will turn into a Bengali Pakistan. And how could Bengalis, after 71, after all that has happened until now, can actually revert back to the Pakistan model, a model that has clearly failed? It's the model of a failed state, not something to emulate. So I'm indeed very upset. How can Bengalis who have achieved so much? We are a very luckless people. We were divided in 47, but 71 brought some cheer back. Bengalis finally got a nation, a country, and Bengali language could be heard in United Nations as well, when leaders of Bangladesh would go and speak. Point is, all those achievements seems to be in ruins and tatters because of all that has happened in the last 1.5 years. The man responsible for this, directly responsible, is none other than the sweet-talking, English-speaking darling of the West, Professor Muhammad Yunus.
Why do you say that? Does he have backing from the West, or is the atrocities that is going on, he's giving some form of impunity, or is it state-sponsored? How would you analyze that?
Well, I am very clear about one thing. After Muhammad Yunus came to power, a couple of things have happened. And these are all state decisions. So definitely, Yunus has a direct role in it. Number one, dozens of well-known terrorist figures have been released. These are Islamist radicals who have been convicted of murder and of many other things, including challenging the legally established government of a nation state. They were tried for treason. They were tried for many other charges, including murder. People like Jashimuddin Rahmani, the chief of the Ansarullah Bangla team. Not only was he released from jail much before his sentence time was up, he was given a military helicopter to visit one of his relatives who had died. Possibly it was his mother or somebody, I don't remember. But a military helicopter was made available for this convict to fly into one of the districts to attend the namaz-e-janaza, the funeral of his relative. So, as we say in Bengali, Jamai Ador, he was given the kind of warm treatment that you reserve for your son-in-laws in Bengal. So point here is, a lot of these well-known terrorist figures were released. And when they are released, they don't sit idle. They are actually resuming the kind of activities that they were well known for. This is number one.
So this is an affront upon the judiciary, because he was convicted by the judiciary. So the judges who convicted him, you raised a question before, is there some form of judicial terrorism? How could the judges react to this, or the judges who convicted him? Are they intimidated if terrorists like this are released after a proper conviction through a due legal process?
Well, madam, the problem is that these people were released after some judicial action, So a new bench perhaps found that these people were not guilty and the earlier judgments were not quite right. This is all because of the fact that the judiciary has been severely browbeaten. Of whole benches being changed overnight, and new people have been brought in, and many of these people are actually fundamentalists themselves. We
Yes,
know
and
about
some of
Tajul
these
Islam.
releases were just way of executive order. Not, it didn't even go to the court after proper conviction and exhausting the highest judiciary. So
That's
just by
true.
executive order, they were released.
No, that's true. Some of them were released through executive orders. Some of them were also released when the cases were brought in front of the court because the judiciary is browbeaten, they're scared. Even judges have been mobbed. Former judges have been mobbed. So everybody is scared for dear life. And the
This
point
appellate
is,
division of the Supreme Court, the entire bench was mobbed and they were forced to resign. So after
exactly,
it
that's
happens to
exactly what
the
I'm trying to say.
apex court, yes, the subordinate judges are of course
And
intimidated.
not only were these people mobbed and forced to resign, the people who took their position, who were brought in, are people who have been controversial. For instance, this International Crimes Tribunal, the chief prosecutor, everyone knew that he was the defending lawyer, he was defending the Jamaat Islamic people, the leaders who were actually accused and then convicted of serious crimes during the War of Liberation in 1971. He was defending them. He's a known Jamaat person. Now he's the chief prosecutor. So what more do you expect? You
It's a
definitely expect
total
the kind of
conflict of
judgment.
interest, of course. And it begs the question whether
Conflict
he's
of
eligible to remain as the chief prosecutor of the International Crimes Tribunal.
Well, you're still sounding very British, very Western when you say conflict of interest. I don't think there is any conflict in the mind of all these people about conflict of interest. Look at Professor Yunus. Moment he's taken over, he has gone ahead and granted tremendous commercial privileges to his group of companies, the Grameen group of companies. They've got licenses, permits to start new businesses. Isn't this conflict of interest? But do you think Mr. Yunus is worried about all this?
Yes, he's given
And
himself a license for manpower export, a digital wallet, universities, while he remains as the head of the government. So yes, that
can
begs
he be
serious
doing this?
question.
He can't. Obviously, he can't be doing this. This is obvious conflict of interest. I'm not a lawyer like you, but I understand this much of law that this is clearly constituting a conflict of interest. But I don't think Mr. Yunus is A, bothered, B, I find this man pretty shameless for a man of his stature, Nobel laureate. He's pretty shameless. He is immune to criticism. He is not moved by any of these criticism. And the important thing is, if you think, or if anybody thinks, that he's not in control, no, it's wrong. He and the radical Islamists like the Jamaat Islami, they're made for each other. He wants to be president. He has made his intentions clear. And it's only if the Jamaat people get elected in the next parliament election, he has a chance to become a president. Because the major parties, Awami League is not in the fray, the BNP, well, they may have their own candidate. So it's only the Jamaat if they come to power. And therefore, Mr. Yunus, since he thinks that if Jamaat comes to power, he has a great chance to end up as the president of the republic. So long as it remains a republic, it does not become an Islamic republic like Iran, Sharia driven. But he wants to be president. And you know why? My analysis suggests, and I think I know this guy. I met him twice, interviewing him when he came to Kolkata after winning the Nobel Prize. And, I think he wants to be president. Number one reason is get immunity from prosecution. Because he has been previously booked for offenses, he has been tried in court, money laundering, financial irregularities, embezzlement, labor law violations. And now, of course, if there is a hostile government, he will be pulled up for this conflict of interest, clean irregularities. To make himself immune from any such prosecution in future, the best thing is to become the president. You don't then get sued by anybody on any charges. Number two, as the president, you will be the supreme commander of the armed forces. Now, in India, this does not matter really because the army here is not politically involved at all. It's a professional army. In Bangladesh, where the ghost of Pakistan continues to survive and resurrect itself from time to time, You have this, control over armed forces is a very important thing for somebody who is running the show in Bangladesh. And therefore, Yunus wants to be the supreme commander of the armed forces. He can then change generals who he does not like, bring in generals in important places that he likes. And if he falls out with the government of the day, he can use the army against the government of the day. Number three, very important, and I think we need to come to this. This election, due on February 12th, is not just an election. It's tagged with something called a referendum. Now, this election is being conducted by an illegal authority. The interim government is an illegal authority because, as you know, Bangladesh constitution does not provide for an interim government. Number two, there is no provision for a referendum, to the best of my knowledge, in the Bangladesh constitution. So this referendum that now is going to be held is completely illegal. But this referendum is tagged with the election. It's supposed to go hand in hand. You're supposed to have two pieces of paper. In one, you vote for the candidates you want to come to, the parliament. And the other paper, you are supposed to tick yes or no, whether you are supporting the July Charter or not. Now, this July Charter, if it comes through, is going to give the president a lot of powers. That's very much in the content of the July Charter. More powers to the president, less to the prime minister, even restricting the prime minister to 2 terms, no 3 terms. So here, the problem is that, or the advantage for Yunus is, if he becomes president after the acceptance of the July Charter, he may end up as a president who will be the most powerful president in the history of Bangladesh, independent Bangladesh. So therefore, these 3 reasons, I think, he wants to be president. Now, why would Jamaat need this man? Why do I say made for each other? This is something reserved for husbands and wives. I'm sorry to be bringing this pleasant thing into these things which are less than pleasant. And that is, Jamaat will be seen as a government of mullahs, hardline Islamist clerics. So Jamaat has a global image management problem. It's great for them to have a Nobel laureate as the face of the republic, a president who will effectively be their foreign minister, who will go around the world and will say, oh, here, no, it's not the mullahs. It's all to fool the West. The West, people in the West are naive. They get carried away by these outer images. So no, you can't say this is a government of the mullahs. You don't have an Ali Khamenei there running Bangladesh. You have a Nobel laureate. As if Nobel laureates are holier than cow. We now know what Nobel laureates actually are meant for. When you see this Nobel laureate from Colombia now willing to share her prize with Donald Trump, share my prize with somebody else, come on. Why? Because Trump is delivering to these people their political agenda, which is removal or regime change of the Maduro government. It's exactly the same kind of regime change that has happened in Bangladesh. No revolution, right? This July-August revolution 2024 is all bullshit. There were certain feelings among a certain...
to what they call a revolution. When
it's defaming the entire concept of revolution if you call this a revolution.
Because when he went to the US, he himself said that it was meticulously planned. So I would like you to comment on that in view of the fact that they are themselves calling it a revolution, whereas it doesn't seem to be spontaneous at all. It was Shibir, the student wing of Jamaat-e-Islam and others were involved, and there were these 7.62 snipers. You have a military background. I'd like you to kindly, for our audience, focus on that. Is that something the Bangladesh police or army use? Because 66% of those who died, according to the UN report, were shot by the 7.62 bullets.
Well, 7.62 is definitely not a bore that's used by any security force in Bangladesh. In India, they used to use this long time back. It's gone out of fashion because now the standard service rifles that the Indians use, it's 5.56. Okay? So 7.62 is only used possibly in Pakistan. I wonder, therefore, what our Janabs from Pakistan have to offer here, how they come into the picture.
So if these are not used by the military or the police in Bangladesh, then it
No.
begs a serious question on two things, which I'd like you to kindly address for our audience. A, that according to UN report, 66% of those who were killed, clean shot between the eyes, in the head. So these were not like random shots, they were very clean shots. If Pakistan is using that, how did it creep into Bangladesh? And secondly, the police and the previous regime is being blamed for that. So could there have been a double take on this, a conspiracy of some sort? Someone else did it and blamed it on the government. What's your take on this?
My take is pretty clear. And this is not just me saying this. This is my good friend, Brigadier General Shekhawat Hussain, who continues to be on the advisory council headed by Muhammad Yunus. He was in charge of the home portfolio when he said this. And he let the cat out of the bag, a very dangerous cat out of the bag, when he said, well, these shots, were not fired by Bangladesh security forces because they are not issued these bullets. They are not issued these bullets. See, Tania, I would draw your attention to the fact that a number of occasions before we have seen on very controversial kind of assassination attempts, we have seen Pakistan-made ammunition or ordnance being used. If you recall the attack on Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League procession in which Ivy Rahman was killed and a lot of other Awami League leaders died, on 21st August 2004, Argus grenades, which are used by the Pakistan army and which they freely distribute among the terrorist groups which are attacking Indian forces in Kashmir, or the Sikh terrorists who are attacking Indian forces in the Indian state of Punjab. These are grenades which are used by those people. Okay? Now they found their way into the hands of those who attacked the Awami League rally on 21st August 2004. Obviously, you know where they came from. They definitely came from Pakistan, and they were used by people who are Pakistan's asset in Bangladesh. And this was 2004. Now, coming down to 2024, 20 years later, we find that ammunition which is used in Pakistan by Pakistani forces have been found to be used on people who were in the movement. And when you say clean shot, shot between the eyes, I'm fairly sure from my own little bit of military experience that these are sniper shots. Such accuracy is rare amongst soldiers who are firing on the run, as it were when you are controlling crowds. You're on the run, you're on the move. And it's very difficult in such situation to actually have very clean, pinpointed shot. You may end up shooting a body somewhere in the body, and if you hit somewhere here, it may be by accident. But a sniper who is using this, his scope, actually can, shoot within an inch of his desired target. Within an inch. That is the circular error probability. An inch. So this must be a sniper shot. Now, I would imagine, rather, I would be very sure that these were shots. This was an attempt to create a situation where those in the crowds would be further agitated against the regime. This is a systematic way to provoke anger and to take it to a level of frenzy. And how you do that? You appoint killers who will shoot a few people and which will easily be brave. They will shoot from places which you can't see. They're snipers on some high rooftops. They shoot these people who are in the march. And they think they have been shot by the police or the RAB or the army. And they go berserk. And this is how you aggravate the movement. Now, this is exactly the thing that we have seen in Euromaidan operation, which was another phenomenal regime change operation in the Ukraine in 2013-14.
Right.
This
On
is
that
part
note, this is most interesting. We'd like to hear a lot more after the break. So we need to take a short break. Remain with us. Very interesting information we're getting from Shubhi Bhumik, who's also an ex-army personnel. So remain with us at AMI TV, the channel of your choice.
पहले मैं ऐसी दिखती थी 3 साल पहले। अब इस बीमारी के बाद से मतलब मैं ऐसी हो गई हूँ। पहले मेरी बच्ची बहुत सुंदर और हंसमुख थी।
वक्त उसकी खूबसूरती को मिटा गया। दीपा की दोनों किडनियां खराब हो गईं।
डायलिसिस पे मेरी तबीयत हर बार बिगड़ती है, पानी भी नहीं पी पाती हूँ। डॉक्टर ने कहा है कि आप जल्द से जल्द ट्रांसप्लांट करा लीजिए, वरना आपके साथ कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है आगे, शायद आप ट्रांसप्लांट के भी लायक ना रहें।
किडनी की बीमारी का असर धीरे धीरे लीवर पर भी होने लगा।
10 लाख रुपए बताए हैं। एक ही दुकान है छोटी सी किराए की, जिस पे प्रसाद बेचते हैं। जो कमाई होती है उससे घर चलता है मुश्किल से। काफ़ी कर्जा भी कर लिया है। मैं अपनी किडनी दूंगी अपनी बच्ची को।
मैं चाहती हूँ आप लोग मेरी मदद करें और ताकि मेरे को एक नया जीवन मिले, मैं अच्छी लाइफ जी सकूँ। हम उदयपुर गए और उन्होंने हमारी गंगाराम में ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए जो पैसे दिए उससे हमारी हेल्प हुई।
किडनी देने के लिए डॉक्टर ने बोला, मेरे मन में जरा भी कुछ नहीं आया। बच्चे को जीवन मिल रहा है माँ से, तो कोई बुरी बात नहीं है।
अब मुझे अपनी लाइफ में मौका मिला है कि मैं जो भी मैंने स्टडी की है उसका मैं फ़ायदा उठा सकूं। अब मैं जॉब भी कर सकती हूँ और अपने लिए कुछ काम भी कर सकती हूँ।
दीपा की गुम होती खुशियाँ वापस लौट आईं।
मेरी बच्ची को नया जीवन मिल गया है और उससे मैं बहुत खुश हूँ। और अब हम माँ बेटी बिल्कुल ठीक हैं।
नहीं तो हम तो उम्मीद खो ही चुके थे हर तरह से, काफ़ी हर तरह से मतलब केयरिंग के बाद अब दीपा हमारे साथ है।
जिन लोगों ने भी मेरी हेल्प की है उन लोगों को भी मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना चाहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरी लाइफ को मतलब बचाया, मुझे ज़िंदगी जीने का दोबारा मौका दिया।
हमारा नाम अंजनेल है, हमारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट महबूब नगर, तेलंगाना। हमारा ये पूरा ये तकलीफ हो गया, इधर कट करते बोल रहा है हैदराबाद से, इधर कट करते है कि हमारा काम करने के कैसे आएगा सब।
उदयपुर आते ही ऐसा लगा मानो कोई अपना मिल गया हो। गरीब, बीमारी, कष्टग्रस्त आंजनेय का हुआ जटिल सफल ऑपरेशन।
हमारा ये बीमार है, हमारा को इतना मोटा पैर है सर, इतना बीमार रहता वो निकल गया। उधर वो नारायण सेवा संस्था मुंबई के भेज देते उधर ऑपरेशन कर दिया। हमारा 4 लाख रुपए खर्च होगा। वो नारायण सेवा संस्था 4 लाख रुपए खर्च दिया था। अब 25 किलो वजन है, वो पूरा निकल गया। अब के इपड़ पूरा बीमार पूरा खत्म हो गया सर।
हस्बैंड पैर अंजनेलू, इतना पैर मोटा है, मुंबई से ऑपरेशन काट दिया।
हमारा काम करने के चलने के अच्छा आएगा, अगर खोदने के दिक्कत नहीं है, हमारे चलने के अच्छा है।
मेरे बच्ची के बचपन से समस्या है कि ये सुन नहीं पाती है, तो 5 साल पहले इसका ऑपरेशन हुआ था, कोक्लियर इम्प्लांट नाम का। तो इसका बाहर का मशीन है जो ख़राब हो चुका है। अभी डॉक्टर कहते हैं कि आपको खुद लेना पड़ेगा, जो कि कीमत इसकी 2,70,000 के आसपास बता रहे हैं। नारायण सेवा संस्था के जरिए मेरी बच्ची को सुनने का मौका मिलेगा और उसका भविष्य सुधर जाएगा।
आप लोगों से निवेदन है, आप मेरी बहन की मदद कीजिए ताकि इसका इलाज हो सके।
Dear viewers, thank you for remaining with us. We'll go back to my guest, Mr. Shubir Bhomik. Welcome back. Shubita, just before the break, you were talking about the 7.62 bore, and you were saying that this is not used by security forces in Bangladesh, and you were indicating to Pakistan as a foreign power which uses that. This is also apparently not used in India. Yet, as far as the UN report is concerned, they have said 66% of 1,400 those who died were killed. So you're indicating possible mercenaries, hired hands, or special forces who were brought in for this. Would you like to conclude on that?
You know, like in Ukraine 2013-14, there were hired hands who fired on the crowds, provoked them to frenzy, and then just vanished. Here, a similar tactics was used. It's the same template of the operations which was used in Ukraine by the American deep state, and we see the traces of that in Bangladesh too, that you create shaheeds, you create martyrs. You know, if the police does not create them, you do. And you do it very surreptitiously, you do it in a covert way, and you end up provoking the crowd, and then people are driven to a frenzy, and you then play the other game. And the other game is the army and the forces are then told by these same people who have provoked this kind of frenzy, stay away, stay away. So how you do that? You buy the army off, or else threaten them that you guys in the Bangladesh army, if you want your UN peacekeeping operations to be continued, and you guys, you want a place in that, you better not, crack down too hard on these demonstrators. And therefore we find that at a point of time when the demonstrations were turning violent, the army chief said, we're not firing on the boys. No, what do you mean boys? People who are storming the house of the prime minister and running away with their undergarments, as sort of used, these kind of people, you treat them, you tell them they are our boys and you don't fire on them. I'm very clear. I'm not supposed to go for an overkill as a soldier. But if I find that I've been deployed on an internal security peacekeeping duty, in aid to civil authorities, and if the crowd turns violent, I'm supposed to fire. Maybe there is a standard operating procedure. You don't shoot to kill. You don't shoot for the head. You hit below the knee. But you have to do something to stop the mob, which the Bangladesh army did not do. It just said, no, we're not going to fire on our boys. So are you supposed to distribute sweetmeats?
This is a policy that is being continued even to date. This mob that you're saying, are they really mobs, or are they wink and a nod from the current regime saying that go ahead and attack professors, teachers, secular people, women, minorities, and the law enforcement agencies will turn the other way and not and will give you impunity? So do you get that impression? By studying
these are mobs which are created. Tania, I'll say these are mobs. It's not, mobs gathering spontaneously. These are mobs which are created.
By
They have
design.
these phone groups. No, they have these WhatsApp groups, the phone groups. And, you have the technology today. You can gather a mob of a couple of thousand people in next to no time. You can easily do that because you have the technology, you have the WhatsApp, you have all these
Are they
apps. And
sympathetic,
you
or do they
gather.
belong to a specific Islamist groups or political parties?
They pay. They are paid. They come from the lumpen, criminal world, underworld of Dhaka and other cities. In Bangladesh, they are called tokais. These tokais are systematically harbored by these so-called revolutionary leaders. Otherwise, I don't think any student, any sensible student of Dhaka University, I have a lot of respect for that university, will storm into the Prime Minister's household and come out with her undergarments as if in triumph. No student will be that. These are these kind of, they're running away with fish from her ponds, they're running away with refrigerator from her kitchen. I mean, these are looters, but they have been mobilized in a very synchronized way. Now, this is the new technology of regime change. These student leaders have been systematically trained how to gather mobs, how to use these mobs, what to say to provoke them, and how to get the best out of them, thereby meaning how to, sort of demolish your targets completely, those you have targeted. You can humiliate them, you can attack them, you can physically harm them. It all depends, it goes by degrees. This is a systematic technology of regime change, which has been taught to these student leaders in classes by foreign diplomats, and I have enough evidence of that, in the cover of some coaching classes which are run by some of these Islamist groups. I know for a fact. But the point here is very simple, which is that this has the backing of the government of the day. Because these people, and the evidence of this is that some of these so-called July revolutionary leaders, this girl, Shurabhi, who has been now accused of large-scale extortion, she was pulled up and brought to the police station by the police. And in no time, the government intervened and said, oh, she's a July warrior. She cannot be harmed. So you now have some orders in place, executive orders in place, by which police are not supposed to touch any of these July warriors. They may be involved in extortion, they may be involved in murder, they may be involved in any kind of criminal activity that you can conceive of, but they are not supposed to be touched.
Just to
this is a decision taken by the Yunus government.
Yes, just to supplement what you're saying, we actually see an executive order from the government itself where indemnity has been given to them from July and August atrocities. So out of the 1,400 that the UN said were killed, government is only admitting 800, and the rest that were done by these so-called sponsored mob, they're not to be tried or prosecuted for any of the atrocities and killing. So what you are saying is actually evidenced by the fact that the government has taken a policy decision and such an executive order. And now they're demanding further indemnity for all killings and atrocities since August 2024 to date. Is that right?
That's not only absolutely correct, but this is precisely what I was trying to point to. Right. This is encouraging a culture of impunity for which Professor Yunus has to take responsibility, because these executive orders are passed. It cannot be passed without his clearance. It cannot happen without his clearance. You look at this. This man comes to power and he sets up quite a few commissions to address different problems, because at that time, he did not seem interested in election. He was saying, no, we are not here only to conduct elections. Also, some of his advisors, we are here for reforms and we are here for trials. Okay, now you set up a couple of commissions to address the idea of reforms in different areas. The commission that came up with the most detailed report and was the first to do so was the Commission on Women. And they came out with a detailed report. But that report was not something that would please Mr. Yunus's most important backers, the Islamist radicals. So all these mullahs went berserk, at that report. The commission was headed by Shireen, herself quite a women leader. So because there were recommendations like there should be gender equality in issues like marriage, inheritance, and divorce. And they said, no, this is un-Islamic and this can't happen. And these mullahs held a huge rally in Dhaka where they put up an effigy of a woman draped in sari, the Bengali dress, and they were disrobing her and slamming the effigy with sandals. Distasteful, disgraceful.
Atrocious.
I am ashamed that this is happening in the land of Tagore, in the land of Nazrul, in the land of, Michael Madhusudan Dutt, all these
And
great
Begum
cultural
Ruqayya.
figures. And Begum Ruqayya, absolutely, Begum Ruqayya. That's it.
And the government
Yes.
had granted them impunity. The government had allowed
And then
them
what
to...
happened? Then Mr. Yunus quietly shelved. Look at this man. He's playing to the good wishes of these radicals. So he's no longer, Professor Yunus, he's Mullah Yunus. He's quietly shelved this women report and stuffed it under the carpet. And nobody talks about this anymore. And people like Shireen, who were in the committee, who actually gave these recommendations, have become target of the mullahs, and they are not feeling very happy about it. I can say that with certainty. They are not feeling
Dr.
happy. They're
Yunus
feeling
hasn't
very
condemned
nervous.
that either. He's not sheltered them, protected them, or condemned such attack
Exactly.
upon women.
So how, with that women report being shelved, all his pretensions to bring in forward-looking reforms has gone for a toss. He's now just trying to make these Islamist radicals happy so that he gets a slice of power, he becomes president. And therefore, Bangladesh, because of this man and the way he's gone about things, Bangladesh is sliding back not only into anarchy, absolute anarchy, but also into a phase of Islamist radicalism, which was never the case in the country.
Yes, I would like...
Bangladesh.
Yes, sorry. I would
Sorry?
like to just address, I'd like you to touch upon that government has also, headed by Dr. Yunus, passed a legislation that cultural teachers for music and theatre and dance and physical education teachers will not be appointed anymore. Clergies will be appointed in their place. And already today, we have a festival known as the Posh Shankranti, which is winter celebrations. The radicals are going around saying there will be no music or dancing on rooftops or inside any houses anywhere across Bangladesh. So it seems that the government policy and the legislation is hand in glove with what the radicals are intimidating the people. So this is one thing I'd like you to focus on. And lastly but not least is whether there's an environment for election and the referendum issue. So may I invite you to address these 2 points, please?
Right. See, there has been a very conscious attempt to do away with all the cultural practices in Bangladesh which are trans-religious. They did away with the famous Mela, the fair, in the memory of Lalon Fakir, who is a revered saint. This...
And someone who is
people
secular.
like Lalon, exactly, they are, they are
Sufis
part
and
of the
secular
sin-creating... See, they are part of the sin-creating Bengali culture that has evolved over the centuries, which is trans-religious in nature. Lalon is revered as much by Muslims as by Hindus. Same is the case with a lot of other saints like Onukul Thakur. He may be Hindu, but he has a lot of Muslim disciples. And this has gone on. May I draw your attention to the fact that the great reformer, who is called the father of Bengal Renaissance, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, he actually wrote his first 2 books in Persian, and he was inspired to bring in reforms in Hindu society, which is why he started a new order called the Brahmo Samaj. he was inspired by the Sufi saints, the Mutazilites. At that point of time, he was not inspired by the West because he didn't know English at that point of time. He learned English, but much later. So his inspiration for reforms came from the Sufi saints. And look at what has happened to the Sufis. It's the Sufis who popularized Islam in the Bengal frontier. You read David Eaton or anybody, you see that these are the people who popularized Islam and who came up with a version of Islam which was very syncretic in nature, which drew a lot from local culture as much as from the original precepts of Islam.
So does it look like that, Islam came to Bengal and Bangladesh, today's Bangladesh in particular, not through the sword, not through the extremist understanding of Muslims or Islam, but rather through Sufi saints, which is what the syncretic culture is all about in Bangladesh, bringing the message of peace and equality, irrespective of religion or gender, which is in consonance with the human rights instruments and what we follow today.
Absolutely. The inspiration for Bengal Renaissance, at the heart of which was the thrust for gender equality as highlighted by Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now, these were people who were all inspired by the Sufi saints, the Mutazilite saints. The Mutazilites were hated across the hardline elements of the Islamist world, but they found refuge in Bengal and they thrived here. And these are the people who were responsible. And today, look at what is happening to the Sufi mazars. There is a lot of noise in India about Hindu temples being attacked. It's true, a lot of Hindu temples have been attacked and a number of Hindus have been killed. But the Sufis, they popularized Islam in the Bengal frontier. Look at how many mazars, 70 to 80 of their mazars. I'm in touch with them. 70 to 80 of the Sufi mazars have been razed to the ground. And why? Because the first target of these radical Islamists, these Wahhabi Salafist elements, who draw their inspiration from the hardline elements of the Middle East and Islam, is that they must demolish, all kinds of tolerant, syncretic Islamist practices that exist in Bangladesh. Then they go for the minorities. This is a very systematic way
and then
of creating...
women and then secular individuals, professors, intellectuals. So there's a whole blue list of individuals. It seems it is systematic. And of course, as you know, you yourself is a journalist, as to how many journalists are in jail. And over 200, I understand. And over 700-800 lawyers are accused and put behind bars.
Tania, will I be exaggerating if I say that Bangladesh now is one huge jail? I have actually got across to some of my brothers and sisters in Bangladesh who have been in jail and who have come out of jail. Luckily, some of them got bail. Horrible experiences. They can't eat anything. God knows what they have been fed with.
Is there an environment for a referendum or even an election when so much law and order situation and illegal arms are available in the country? So many mobs,
Absolutely.
So many terrorists are out. Is there at all an environment to hold any election?
But I would say, Tania, that this is precisely the kind of environment that Dr. Yunus and his Jamaat supporters want to prevail, because then they can terrorize. If you think that these Hindus have been killed just because they are Hindus, no. This is an organized attempt to scare the Hindus away from the polling booths well in advance, so that they don't come out and vote for somebody else. They're not expected to vote for Jamaat in any case.
I'm told that some Hindus are being told, you better go to the polling station and vote in favor of Jamaat. So that is also happening. So it's working both ways, yes.
But, terror works either ways. So if you go, you vote for us. You don't go, well, your choice. But preferably you go and vote for us. Point here is, this is precisely the kind of terror that Professor Yunus and his Jamaat cohorts want to prevail, so that with this kind of terror in the air, you can actually manage the results in your favor. If you don't have this kind of terror and uncertainty, if there is peace and tranquility and elections are then held in a free and fair way, then you can rest assured the Jamaat will never make it. And if Jamaat does not make it, Yunus does not become president. Here lies the catch. So therefore, they want these kind of the elections to happen, but in this kind of a turbulent atmosphere, so that the results are predictable. And these
So
mullahs
will
who
this
could not
result
dream of coming to
change?
power.
Will this
Pardon?
situation change if BNP comes to power, or will there be a national government and Dr. Yunus, according to you, will become the president anyway? So what difference does it make from Dr. Yunus's point of view, whether Jamaat or BNP comes to power? He becomes the president, and increasingly the power of the president will increase. And as part of the referendum, as you already indicated, the power of the president will increasingly become more and more, and the power of the prime minister will diminish, and the secular character of the constitution will be thrown out by way of this referendum. So is the referendum cloaked in the guise of an election? But the real issue for Dr. Yunus is to go ahead with the referendum, throw away the constitution and its secular character, and increase his power more and more. And what
You hit
difference
the
does it
nail
make
on the
whether
head
it's
there.
BNP or Jamaat who comes to power?
No, Tania, you have actually hit the nail on the head. Here is a situation where the constitution, in a very topsy-turvy way, is being used to hold the elections. Everything about this election is illegal. There is no provision for referendum in the constitution. There is no provision for interim government, but they are holding the election and they're holding a referendum. Now, if the referendum, if the yes votes prevail, then you have the July Charter accepted. In that case, in any case, the constitution goes out of the window. So here
The
is a
secular
very
character of
peculiar
the
situation.
constitution in particular.
No, here is a situation. The constitution is being used to destroy the constitution. It's a very
Which is not
calculated
possible.
strategy.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what the plan is, and this is why things are shaping up the way they are. Here is a situation in which the BNP, I think, has been dragged into the election with the prospect of immediate power. They made a huge mistake, because they're an established political party. They have ruled Bangladesh before. They are by getting into this election, they are becoming partner in an electoral process which is downright illegal. Now, let's say they win the election. My own understanding is, if the BNP wins the election hands down, with a lot of 2/3 majority and stuff like that, they may be inclined to form their own government in their own way and even have a president of their own choice. But if the BNP, most of the surveys that have been done, I don't know whether to believe these surveys. I really don't know the methodology used and how seriously they have sampled, constituencies properly or not. But here is a situation in which, if the results of the election are quite tight, in the sense that the BNP has a majority but not a very decisive one, and the Jamaat is breathing down their neck, then the BNP may fall back. And there are Islamists within the BNP. Then they fall back on this national government thing, that we need not fight each other. Already the Jamaat chief, Shafiur Rahman, has made this offer. Amra Sahajogita korbo. He said, we are prepared to cooperate with the BNP. Which means what? That if they are not decisively victorious, then they will depend on the Jamaat to run the parliament. Otherwise, Jamaat can make things very difficult if they're running neck to neck, So therefore, you have then a possibility where Jamaat will obviously call the shots. Either way, even in opposition, there will be a situation in which the BNP, if they get something like, say, 160 seats or 65, something like that, not a clear decisive majority, they find it very difficult to run the parliament. And then Mr. Tariq Rahman, who is inexperienced in running the government or even the party, he used to run something called an Hawa Bhavan, some kind of a non-official, power center in the days when his mother was prime minister. But he does not have direct experience in running the government or the party. So he found it very tough to run the show, and therefore he may fall back on the Jamaat. And the Jamaat has already said, we'll cooperate. So we'll cooperate, but on our terms. So Bangladesh is in for very turbulent times, very difficult times at a time. And I feel very, very upset at a time when, say, in a place like Iran, where an established theocracy is facing a huge challenge, for staying in power, people have hit the streets. And look at the number of women on the streets of Iran. They're challenging the theocracy. Here you have a bunch of mullah who are jumping up and down every day, imagining that they have already taken power. They think that this is their best chance. I mean, these mullahs who had never even imagined they can ever come to power in independent Bangladesh are now quite jumping up and down. Look at their body language. People like Shah Jahan Chowdhury, the Jamaat leader of Chittagong, he's saying administrators, they should follow us. They should do protocol for us every day as if he has already become a minister.
Shubita, we've run out of time already. So, with those words, I'd like to thank you. And we hope that Bangladesh sees a proper election. We didn't have the time today to go into a legitimate government, which is a caretaker government under the constitution, which has been resurrected to hold free and fair and inclusive election. But on the notes that you talked about, if there's a referendum, then there's a moving towards theocracy, and the July Charter will throw away the secular character of the Constitution itself. Things are not looking too good as per what you have told us. We hope to have you back again, perhaps in slightly better conditions and slightly better hope for Bangladesh. So with those words, please allow me to thank you again for coming on my show, and we hope to see you soon. Joy Bangla. Dear viewers, thank you for being with us. That's all for today from Desh Bangla Live with Tania, Amir. Thank you.